That's our playground. Done. So now we can render it. So I'm going to close the material window down. I'm going to Alt-W out to my 4 windows. I'm going to use my render window here, and we're on the home stretch now. So I want to show all my lights again. So I'm just going to turn this into a left view, or a front view, because I've already got a left view up here. I'm going to make it wireframe, just because I could make it all solid color if I wanted to. It's probably faster. It's making a liar of me. Okay, I'm going to make this solid color too. I would have made this solid color anyway for rendering, because I like to see what it's going to look like. So we want to unhide all. Now this is a typical problem you will run into. As you're bringing in components, whoever's modeled the components might have been doing something else and they've saved data inside that file, and you will get little artifacts and other kinds of models and stuff appear. So it's brought in another plane. I'm just going to select it and delete it. It's brought in cameras. I'm going to select one, right click, select similar, delete all of them, and you can see it's taken out all of the cameras there. I can see some little image here. I don't know what it is, but it's going. I'm going to zoom out. It doesn't appear to have put any other funny objects in there. I'm going to hit F3, it's a bit faster. Okay, it's put something on top of my playground. It looks like something to do with a pirate ship. Deleting it. Just going to spin around, double check. There's nothing else there. I don't want any weird objects in the back of my render. I don't want to have to do it, 2 or 3 times. Now, very important, this part. You can see that there's a big sun here, and it points down to its target. When you're rendering, and this is why I don't like to touch this frame only. I like to keep it in this view. I like to keep it set up as it is. If you ever turn it around like this, and the sun is on this side, and you render, and let's do it. Let's just zoom it in a bit. Let's render it. You can already see it's a little bit dark, even before it renders, now that it's rendering in the window. As it's rendering, I mean, look, it doesn't look too bad. You could get away with it. But I can tell that the colours they look a little bit dirty and dark. Still looks alright. Not too bad. But this is the sort of image that you will get when the sun isn't facing the right way in your scene. Still rendering. Sometimes it takes a few minutes, depending on how big your playground is. It can take several minutes. So we can see that the shadows are doing something a little bit funny there, and just everything looks a bit dark, and yeah, overall not really well. Not really good. So I'm going to turn it back around so the sun is in the top right hand section of my window. Okay, that's where it's going to be. So it's going to look like that, and then I'm just going to zoom in. Okay, so it's always going to be up here. So I can keep zooming in, that's fine, because I want my image to be bigger. Now it's not really a good angle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this a wireframe view up the top. I'm going to drag and select the whole lot. Now, I'm going to right click and I can rotate the whole thing 90 degrees. It's probably a bit of a better angle really. Or you can just do it manually. You can just turn it to however you want. Yeah. The important thing is though, that when we zoom out here, our sun is still on the right hand side of our screen. That's most important. Sometimes when you're importing images from the asset browser window like we have been, some components have been modeled with their own lighting and sun. So sometimes you will end up having two suns in one scene. I'm going to show you what that looks like really quickly now. Okay, so let's just get that somewhere around those orange lines of our safety frame. I'm just going to go ahead, select our sun and the target, and I'm going to just copy it. Sometimes it will look like that. You'll have two suns doubled up, and even you'll have several lights doubled up. So you can see how already in our bottom frame here it looks very bright. So let's just go ahead and render that and just look at the difference in colours. So we're going from real dirty, muddy, dark colours. Now it's real bright, real vibrant. Probably a bit too bright. I mean, again, you could probably get away with this as well. It's kind of like overexposing a photo. And you could certainly get away with it. But I know for a fact that that's too bright. So we're just going to let this render a little bit longer. It certainly looks better than it did. Even though it's a bit too bright, it looks better than dark and dingy. At least you can see the components. You know, you can see the fine details in the models. So we're nearly done. Okay. So look, not bad, not great. Okay. So that's what happens when you have a double up of a sun or some lights. The other way to check that real quick is to push H for Harry. This gives you all the files that are listed in the scene. Now we can filter what we see here by unclicking some of these. I'm not going to go through them all because more than likely you won't have to do it too often. But what I am going to tell you, just to keep in the back of your mind, the sun is called a V-ray sun. So if we go up to find and type in V-ray, it automatically highlights all the words starting with V-ray. Okay? So I can see now, these two here are the ones that we want to keep because they're with all our other lights here. These are all our other lights and they're all signified by the little light symbol here. Anything else I really actually just want to get rid of because I don't want little V-ray V-ray sun helpers and all this sort of stuff. I want to get rid of them. So if I remember correctly, I think it's Control click to deselect what you do not want to delete. So what you should have selected is what you want to delete. Okay, so that's Control click what you do not want to delete. Okay, we'll push OK. Those little V-ray sun helpers are selected. Okay, I can sort of tell because down the bottom this bar's filled up with all different colours, and not that that means anything too much, but I can just tell. It's just one of the telltale signs that I've learnt. Okay, and also because down in the bottom left hand corner here it should tell you how many objects are selected. It says 3 helpers are selected, but visually I just see this coloured bar down here. I'm like, okay, something's selected. So I'm just going to go ahead and push delete. Okay, they're gone. So I know for a fact that there should not be any other light sources interfering except for the ones that I want. So let's go ahead and render this now and see if it changes much. You should notice that the colours will come a little bit between the muddy ones that we had first and the bright ones that we're getting rid of now. It looks a little bit more realistic to me. I suppose it's in the eye of the beholder. But after you've done quite a few, you do get to know what looks good and what looks a little bit weird. And this is the type of image that I'm used to and the type of colours. Pretty good. So that's rendering. That's finished. We can now save this by clicking our disk. Okay, and we can just call it 123. We can save it as different file types: BMPs, AVIs is more for animation, JPEGs, HDRIs, TIFFs, PNGs, all sorts of files. Probably the one that you would worry about the most is JPEG. If you're really after quality and you don't care about how big the file size is, go TIFF, because you will get the best quality there. But for now I'm going to do JPEG. When I press save, it will come up with a quality meter, JPEG image control. I don't think it happens on all the file types, but certainly many of them bring up a little window with their own little settings. JPEG brings up this, and this is self-explanatory. It's just a slider system. I can make the image worse and the file size small, but when I slide it up to best image quality, it goes to file size large. I can add extra smoothing. I leave it on normal normally. Press OK, that's saved, that's done. Exit. I'm going to do a top view now. Now, I notice that this is sticking out a bit here, so I'm just going to see what that is. Nothing appearing obvious. I'm going to select that. No. Something sticking out there. I can't actually see what it is in the color preview though. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select the whole lot anyway. And I'm going to rotate it manually so it's sort of sitting horizontal for our top view render. This is where you could list your components in this view. Okay. Now I still really can't figure out what's going on there, so I'm just going to have a bit more of a look. I've got the plane selected at the moment. I'm just going to hide it for now. Okay, so that's to do with those stairs, and as I said earlier, sometimes these models are being made where you can see through polygons on one side, but when you go under them you can see what's really going on there. So in this case I'm going to select them, and I can't do them all in one hit, so I'm just going to select one, select the vertices, and that really shows me what's going on. It's really just when I've selected something and rotated, it hasn't selected everything and it's left those three bars there. I don't know what that's going to look like, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to select it and hit delete, and hopefully it looks like it might be part of these stairs. I'm going to select them, I'm going to delete them. Okay, we will see what happens when we render them. You might not even be able to tell what I've just done, in which case that's good. It's probably just saved us about half an hour of mucking around. Now you'll notice that there's no shadows. And the reason why is because I hid that plane. So that's fine. You could, save that and work with it. But I like the shadows. So I'm going to unhide all. My plane comes back. I'm going to zoom back in. I'm going to push Shift Q, which is just the shortcut for render. And this will hopefully give me my ground shadows.